If you guys haven't noticed yet, I am ramping up my YouTube videos, my podcast episodes, all of my content, especially also the stuff that we're doing inside of Sync Academy and the Syndicate, because a lot of you guys are going to be home having a lot of free time on your hands right now. And that means that there's a huge opportunity for you to pick up a skill, get better at producing, at mixing, at mastering, at crafting a pitch to a music library. I know that there's going to be probably a lot of things that are slowing down right now, but that doesn't mean that you should be sitting on your butt on a couch watching TV shows, movies, and just consuming all this stuff without doing something productive for your licensing career. So this is just an informal chat that I wanted to bring Trevor and Mike on. They are basically my partners inside of the Syndicate, and they're also Sync Academy pros. They have been constantly adding our platform with brand new tutorials every single month for new techniques and tips for how to produce, mix, and master. Recently, we've been really focusing on that copyright problem that's been popping up with a lot of these loop sites. So Trevor and Mike have been supplying us with great tutorials for how to ensure that you're not going to be one of those producers getting a cease and desist. Unfortunately, Mike was one of these library owners that had to deal with that, so he's learned firsthand how to make sure that you steer clear of that trouble. Okay, so we're all basically trying to protect you guys, make sure you understand how to do that kind of stuff, and just approach this business in a very smart manner and not carelessly throwing things out there and just like, oh, it'll never happen to me. It could, it absolutely can, and it does happen to many producers. So, but I want to put out a lot of content right now because I want you guys to be focused on staying productive, staying encouraged, staying educated, and motivated, obviously, in your sync licensing career. So that's why you'll probably see a lot more from me, Trevor, and Mike in the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks as well. So first, if you guys haven't watched any of my previous takes and videos about the coronavirus situation and the hysteria that's going on with it, I will link those below. You know, I don't want to get into all those kind of things. You know, generally take the precautions you feel that are necessary, that are being recommended to you by your local authorities. Keep yourself and your family safe, healthy, minimize contact with people, washing your hands, all that stuff. Okay, we don't need to get into all that in this video. This video, I really wanted to bring these guys on board so we could talk collectively about how we see this impacting specifically our industry, the sync licensing business. And all three of us have actually seen a little bit of the effect already. Some of us, some more negative, some of us more positive. But we want to just be transparent and 100% honest with all of you guys for how we see this affecting our industry in the short term. And maybe we can try to project what might happen in the future. That might be kind of worthless because nobody really knows what the future will bring. But we can definitely give you some of maybe our best guesses as to what we think could happen down the line so that we're all basically better prepared for those situations if and when they do arise, okay? So I want to let one of you guys actually take this and let me know about your thoughts on it. Mike, you had told me that you had some actually a lot of new gigs and a lot of cool things happening through your library in the last couple of days and weeks. Why don't you go ahead and explain to us your experience, what's been happening with this coronavirus thing, and how it's impacted your business. And he is a music library, just so you guys know.
Yeah, so far, it's been kind of weird actually. So, I've had a lot of gigs going leading up to this in the coming weeks or past coming weeks. Basically, what I was working on was a bunch of projects that were, going to be launched or aired like around South by Southwest and other events that were happening. Well, when all those got canceled, the projects got put on hold. Some of them we thought got canceled too, but essentially, what ended up happening was there was maybe a good week or so period of uncertainty, nobody knowing what was going to happen. Announcements were just starting to come in. When we were first hearing about Italy and other countries like starting to shut down, you know, I think there was just sort of like everyone held their breath for a second. But then just this week, it seems like everyone kind of figured out, okay, well, we're not doing this anymore. But since we have this stuff done, this is where we're going to shift it over to, and finding new sort of areas, to push these projects. So, and also to create new projects and new content. So actually, past couple of days have been super busy for me as far as pitching. And it was kind of cool because it gave me like sort of a week off, to like kind of, get my bearings a little bit, and also for me to try to figure out like, okay, what's going to happen with this? How do I want to plan for this and everything too? Because you want to take it seriously. So that was actually pretty good. And then once, this week happened, it was kind of like, okay, everyone's starting to get on the same page. It's like, okay, here's how we're going to kind of push forward with this. So.
Awesome. And then how do you plan on dealing with, has there been any changes essentially with the composers that you work with, bringing on new music? Any change there? Any difference that you want to implement moving forward in this, kind of changing landscape underneath us?
No. Like everyone I work with is, we all work remotely, so honestly, this hasn't changed really anything. I'm still in my room, I'm still video chatting with everybody. Like I'm probably doing that more so now, just to get like more FaceTime. I will say though, one thing that and I think this is a good thing for me, where I'm starting to see it change or where I'd like to see it change too is less setting up of in-person meetings with clients, with potential clients and stuff like that, moving those over to either phone calls or, conference calls like this is like, so much more efficient to me, and trying to get people's schedules together to meet for lunch or coffee. And, we get busy. So things always, and to kind of delay a project or delay a potential working relationship because you're trying to get that meeting in, it's a lot easier to just be like, hey, let's just jump on a call really quick, sort out what we want to do, see if we align, and then, get to it. So
Yeah, that was definitely something that I noticed too because I've been a stay-at-home worker for as long, I think since 2009, 10, something like that. And almost all, other than a couple of in-house meetings, or one time I flew out to Detroit to meet some people in a library I was working with. But other than that, I've been working in a virtual manner for 10 years basically now. So this has really not affected my day-to-day routine at all, or interacting with my library partners or any of that kind of stuff. I know some of them might have had offices where they had to now send their employees home and everybody has to work remotely for the time being, or maybe moving forward, that'll just be a way that a lot of people start to work. But yeah, it's been for me just because, and I know for you guys too, this is just our world. It's like, welcome to our world. This is just what we've been doing for the last 10 years is we
yeah.
work from home, we work remotely, we do phone calls, we do video chats, all that kind of stuff. And I know for a lot of you guys, some people like to travel and network and all that kind of stuff. And maybe this will be a bummer for those people, but people like me, I'm not really interested in flying around the country and meeting with people and doing all that kind of stuff and dealing with all the headaches of all the networking stuff you got to do. So I kind of like now that almost everybody feels like, well, now we just need to stop doing that for a bit. Let's just do face-to-face video conferences or phone calls. So it's going to make things much more efficient. You're going to be able to talk to people much quicker in a more efficient manner. And you don't have to spend a lot of money actually to do this stuff anymore. You don't have to fly anymore. You don't have to wait in long lines. You don't have to pay for large conferences or events to go do that kind of stuff. You can kind of just talk to people face to face or just meet them virtually in these kind of cool things. And you guys better believe that virtual meetups, like VR meetups, are going to blow up in the next 1 month. I think this is within 30 days. You're going to see a lot of companies popping up to fill this demand where, schools, universities, conferences, festivals are shutting down. People still want to be in a sort of social environment. We are social creatures. So the next best thing to being there in real life will be a virtual environment where you can see other people's avatars and you can see their little cartoon characters or whatever it's going to be. I mean, this stuff's already here, but like it's not in a mainstream appeal yet. It's going to be blowing up though. You will be surprised how quickly this technology ramps up and starts to show its face in your world very, very quickly. You guys will see that, I promise. Trevor. So Trevor is here. He's also another library owner. He's a composer himself. So is Mike. So Trevor, why don't you let us know about what you've seen in this industry in the last couple of weeks and how this has affected your business?
Yeah, first I want to touch on a point that you guys were making about the like businesses and working from home and stuff like that. I saw a thing actually the other day. I googled it. I was curious. The average worker like at a company wastes like 2 to 3 hours a day on stuff, on just spacing out, on social media, on whatever, right? Out of their eight work hours, right? So so I think companies are going to start realizing that when all of these people go home and they're more on a task-based system and not necessarily an hourly-based system, where they're going to be like, they're like, and the employees too are going to be at home, be like, well, I got everything done. I don't need to sit here on my phone. I can help my kids with this thing or do this or do that or do my side hustle or whatever. I think that is going to really be obvious for a lot of people who weren't really aware of it. And then the other people who were are kind of like, see, we told you so, so I think that'll be really cool too, to see like the companies and people like do that, because then it allows them to do a lot more of what they want to do. Cause it's like a lot of people would have a job or a career at some of these companies, and that downtime can now be something more productive, maybe even in their own company where they're like, hey, I've been working on this side project for you, boss, check it out. So anyway, so I wanted to touch on that a little bit, but anyway, so our industry, a quick little, my history lesson thing here is, I started in around 2007, 2008, which was the like financial crisis, right? The, whatever it's called, the recession back then. And one thing I noticed is that the library and entertainment in general, like lower cost entertainment, not cruises and Disneyland, but movies and TV shows, had a big boom. And the reason for that is because people stopped doing those things, right? They stopped going to stopped going to Disneyland or traveling to Dubai or whatever their thing was, and instead they stay home and got NFL Sunday ticket, or they stayed home and rented a couple movies or whatever, right? That flooded a bunch of music in this type of market, or money in this type of market, which then created a demand for music. So long story short, lots of big companies joined in on the library game. That's why now lots of libraries are owned by big companies. They didn't used to be. Most libraries, like the ones that we know that are the big ones, are all underneath Universal, Sony, Warner, and so on. They weren't in around 2008. They were all individual, people who started the companies and whatever. So lots of money came into it. It was a great boom for everybody. Everybody was getting paid up front, getting nice royalties, and then it kind of plateaued, and then now here we are. And from my contacts and the people that I've really reached out to, and just from understanding business in general, I really, there seems to be this general understanding that there's going to be that again, that there's going to be a whole bunch of people who consume content stuck at home. They're not going on vacation. They're not going on cruises. I hope not, right? They're not going out, spending $20 on a drink, on 4 drinks, raising up $100 bill or whatever. They're staying at home. And so they need things to consume, and advertisers need to be at those eyeballs. And so you've got advertisers needing content to get to consumers, and all of these people are now need content, right? And there's no sports, right now. So there's like whole sports networks that need content. So all these companies are basically trying to figure out how to fill their time, get into those like this new huge group of eyeballs, and and I mean, they already have it all set up. So from the sounds of it from my clients, I have a few clients that are ramping up production, that are ramping up music production for the new ramp of content, right? All these different content that's coming out, whether it's sports documentaries that they have to put together, or animated stuff is really going to be pretty big because those people can work from home. Like going and filming something is a little bit hard right now. So there's all of this kind of a ramp up on production, because all of these companies, or not all, but most of these companies are kind of assuming that this is going to be the case for at least the rest of the year. I mean, even schools are shutting down and stuff. And so with that all being said, I kind of have this from the talk of, talking to some of my clients and some of these people who are just like, we need tons more music, like keep sending it our way, is because they're understanding that like this is in a way a boom for this type of industry, this like smaller, entertainment industry. And also, I forgot the next point. So there's this like boom of that kind of situation right now, which makes me feel pretty optimistic. And then you also have all these composers and everybody who's just, they got time on their hands, right? So they're like in the perfect situation to take advantage of what this looks like.
And I love that. And, you brought up some points I never even thought about. Just the idea that you're right, like all the wasted time at these offices is like gone. That is over. And you're right. They're not going to send their employees home. Okay, you're going to be on the clock from 9 to 5. No, they're going to say, this is what I need you to get done by the end of the week or the end of the month or the end of the quarter, whatever the big thing is. Get it done, and you're getting paid. So a lot of these employees are going to realize that if they can just zero in and focus on this one particular task, they're going to have hours, days, weeks, maybe of free time. And that's going to open them up, if they did have an idea, to maybe start a side hustle, or they see an opportunity happening right now with the changing economy and all the things that are happening. They're going to jump on board and have the ability to start a new business, to provide a new service, or at least, and this is what I hope everybody that's watching this, you guys all do, at least learn one new skill. One new skill. You can do that. If you're going to be home for a couple of weeks or months, and you don't come out of the situation, it's like a mandatory vacation, but you can't go to the beach. Sorry, you have to be at home. But if you can't take advantage of the fact that you could go online and learn a new skill, let's say you have a day job where having one additional skill would make you more valuable to an employer, or kind of hike you up the pay scale a bit, or if it's a couple of skills that could help you launch a side hustle, a new business. Or if you're getting into TV film licensing, of course, if you can just improve your producing skills, your mixing skills, your mastering skills, or if it's been like, hey, I need to get together and do a full an album or something like that, which makes me think I'm going to decide that right now. We're going to do another Sync 60 challenge very, very shortly, guys. So I'm going to make sure that you guys can all participate with us on that one. But if you need to do something like that, where you're like, I've been meaning to, because I get this all the time, you guys. Those of you that have emailed me wanting to succeed, the number one complaint is, Don't have enough time, Jesse. I got a job, I got this, got the kids, I got the wife, I got all that kind of stuff. And I know that this situation, it's not going to fall equally on everybody's shoulders, but I know that there's going to be a lot of you that are going to realize how much free time you now have. So if you're not committed to doing something about improving your skills and putting yourself in a position to succeed because of this, you've done this wrong. You've missed out on probably one of the biggest opportunities of your life. That's how I see this. I don't see this as Armageddon 2.0, bunkered down, forget about all hope, it's all over. If you're doing that, you're really doing this wrong. There's so many better things you can be doing with your time. So those are really some great points you brought up, Trevor. What I do want to talk about right now, I can tell you guys quickly, just for everybody who's curious, my licensing career has not slowed down at all. In fact, it might be coincidental, but a week or two before this kind of craziness happened, I was being asked to do commercials for national campaigns and put together full albums for major sports opportunities. And now I know that some sports are going to be delayed and not happening yet, but a lot of these sports networks are still going to, just as Trevor said, they still are going to put out content. Like if you're a basketball or a NASCAR or a baseball fan, it's not just because there aren't any live games doesn't mean you're not going to want to watch something related to sports, right? They might play some legacy old games, some classic games. They'll have analysis. They'll have game, or they'll have chat shows where people are just talking about baseball and all that kind of stuff. Fans are fans, and they're going to want to support and be involved in the sport, even if it's actually not happening. So that stuff's still going to be going on. But yeah, I've definitely seen an increase actually in my workflow over the last couple of weeks. So I'll keep you guys up to date and let you know if anything really kind of falls off a cliff, in the next couple of weeks. But right now, I've got a lot of work in front of me, and that's what I'm basically doing here while I'm at my home studio. But the one thing I want to talk about is movie theaters. So movie theaters, big part of our industry, of course. You're getting your TV, you're getting your film placements. People are going to the theaters. That's supporting a big chunk of our income here in this industry. Theaters across the country and across the world are going to be closing. And there's really no at-home solution for that, really, other than they could basically try to make some of these new releases available through certain portals, that kind of a thing. My guess here is that when this does pass, and it will pass, when movie theaters go, all right, we're open for business again, will there be a rush for people to go back to theaters after all of this? I want to get your guys' opinion before I share mine. Mike, do you have a thought on that, where you see movie theaters going after all this?
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I think movie theaters have been dying anyway, so I think they're kind of going to die unless, but see, here's the thing. I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to start to see, theater companies start to, offer some new technologies or new way of experiencing these things. We've already started to see it, like, last like few years with the Atmos theaters and the AMC theaters, like that are, with the lounge chairs and all that kind of stuff, trying to basically justify their insanely high prices for tickets, right? So, I think we're going to start to see some of that to try to get the market back. But then I think really what's going to happen is you're going to start to see, because what's happening now is with the theaters closed, you see someone like Universal is now, they're going to be releasing their theatrical, releases on demand now. So you're going to see a lot more of that. The streaming services, especially like when, Disney Plus is, releasing some of their content earlier now. Amazon, everybody's going to be releasing their content earlier on streaming services. So you're going to see a lot more of that, and probably the movie industry moving towards like a better, like, sort of streaming platform. Maybe there's going to be like, maybe AMC just ends up being like a streaming service, right? So I think for us, now that's in certain ways the good thing is that that's going to create like a lot more opportunities for music, and trailers and stuff like that, and releases. And it's going to create a lot more like faster opportunities, because things are going to, to keep up with that game, you have to produce a lot faster, right? So they're going to need a lot more. The downside, though, is it makes me wonder if, now you're going to start to see less of like the premium sort of pricing structures, So maybe the sync fees for trailers might come down. But then again, the door opens for maybe more people to get into it. So in one case, it's kind of like, it's more like, for me, it's kind of like, since that's what I do, I have to like kind of wait and see to see like, like, okay, is it going to be really a good thing or a bad thing? But it's, I think through all of this, it's not ever really good or bad. It's just about trying to figure out like, okay, how are things going to change? And I think in that way, like, I think you're going to start to see, newer technologies, maybe, more VR, AR is going to start to, theaters might turn into something more like that and give that more of that kind of an experience, which will then require maybe, okay, so maybe the traditional trailer might not pay as much, right? But then with these new sort of technologies, it's going to require a different type of production, different type of experience, and thus a more specialized service. That if you can fill that, then then that's where you can keep like kind of your premium service rates and stuff like that.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah. Trevor, what do you think? What do you think is happening with theaters when this is all said and done?
You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay, my audio thing crashed. I had to reboot it, so
You're
making
good.
sure. Okay, so a few things. The theater thing, I feel the same way Mike does. I'm just kind of like, I haven't really spent any time in theaters in a long time. I just once recently went to take my daughter because it was like, let's go do something kind of thing. But and it was actually kind of cool because they had the big seats now instead of just like the little lawn chairs and stuff. So I could tell that they're trying to like do quality over quantity and stuff like that. But it still just felt kind of useless because I was like, if I could have rented this at home right now, we would have just done that, right? And I just saw, I don't know if you guys saw, but I saw one of the companies are planning on doing this. They're planning on just releasing all their theatrical releases on like iTunes and Amazon for rentals for like $25 or 30, something like
Universal.
the price of is Universal, yeah.
Yep.
For the price of a couple tickets, you could then just watch it at home, which I remember, I think DirecTV or Dish or one of these companies were trying to offer that idea in the past and it didn't pan out. But it makes so much sense. It's like, I think that they end up probably more than likely, in my opinion, get like more sales that way because you don't have to do anything. You just like, and there's tons of people that'll, rent at home. So that I think is cool too, because that also creates, we don't have a, at least in America, we don't have a system for royalties for theaters, right? Like if theater play doesn't make any royalties, but if there's a system like this, that might help set up a system for people where, streaming royalties or download whatever the end result is, you might be able to in your contract make a deal for that of like, okay, we'll do some of the music in your movie or your trailer or whatever to get some of the like ticket sales or whatever, which is a pretty cool thought. I also noticed, this doesn't have to do with movies, but what kind of does is that a lot of these companies, so I have our library has put a bunch of music in shows that haven't been released. They've been made and put together, but didn't get distribution, like kind of like pilots and stuff like that. Well, these are all getting bought up now. Like I was just contacted yesterday by two different clients that are just like, hey, that show that you put music in for us like a year ago, it just got picked up, and that's been happening a whole bunch. And so that kind of like world of making something and then hoping to get it like later, all just got big payoffs, right? All these shows that are just like are getting picked up by like Netflix and Hulu and all these, which is another cool kind of scenario, scenario of the times. So. And I know a few composers who scored films that are now like, oh, they just got picked up, I'm just getting paid now. So there's that. But yeah, the theater thing, I think, like Mike said, I think it's gone, and I think it just creates this new world of. He's probably too right about the whole big money, big trailer thing, but at the same time, I think there's now like large, medium, and small, and a lot of the large will just kind of bleed into the medium, and we have a lot more medium, and maybe 2 trailers at 8,000 is better than 1 trailer at 10. Like something like that.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, you guys bring up some really great points that I hadn't even thought about. My take on theaters is that there's already something with, I think it's Oculus, called Big Screen. I don't know if you guys have ever, I don't have the current Oculus. I have the old developer 2 kit. So from 2013 or 14, whatever it was, 15, I don't know. But I was really heavy into VR and buying some of that stuff. I haven't bought any of the new technology. I've tried the new, I think it was the Quest, and it looked really, really cool. But they already have these apps for virtual reality consoles where you go into a virtual movie theater and you can sit there with your friends. I could actually go watch a movie with Trevor and Mike, and we could be in our own private movie theater, or it could be public. It's usually not a great recipe but I think you can mute people, and probably you can make sure like you don't want to hear anybody else's. You can mute everybody else, that kind of thing. So those are all going to be very solvable problems. But it's kind of cool that, yeah, while we're going to be sort of self-distancing and quarantined and a little bit more isolated for the next couple of months, you're still going to be able to get together and hang out and have a good time with your buddies watching a great movie. But you're not going to be stuck in that movie theater you've been going to down the road from you. You could be on the moon. and you could be looking down at Earth to your right and looking up at a screen to your left. Okay, you could be in a theater from the middle of the century. You could literally design your own theater. You can make it a really cool, interesting experience. You can have an IMAX screen. You can be halfway through the movie and go, "That's too big for me. I want to do it a little bit smaller." You can change stuff. It can be 3D. This is where theaters, I don't see people rushing back to theaters at all. After they've tasted this, they're going to look back at theaters and go, really? Going and spending that kind of money for that experience when I've been having this kind of experience for the last year? I don't know. I've found, and I think this is just my suggestion for theaters, if they want to have any hope of staying in business, I think the new release model going through theaters is probably a bad idea at this point. I think what Trevor and Mike were saying, they're probably going to just start going directly to people's homes. That's going to be the better place to do it. I think what theaters should be focusing on is nostalgia, right? Imagine whatever your favorite movie has been. For me, like one of my top movies is Jurassic Park, because I remember I think I was in the 4th grade, going to the theater. I didn't even know. I never saw a trailer for it. My friend, his mom took us to the theater, and they're like, it's a movie about dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. I was a kid. So you go to the theater and you see real dinosaurs on screen, like coming at you. And it was like the scariest and most exciting thing I'd ever seen in my life. It completely changed my worldview, actually, just to go. So if my local theater was like, we're having Jurassic Park week, and they have all the old posters up, and they have the old cutouts up, or they just make new ones and make them look old, and they have just kind of a theme to it, and it's like, hey, go relive your childhood, go back to the movie theater and watch these kind of old things. That actually, I think people would get out of their houses and go experience that. That might be one thing, and I think some theaters do that once in a while. It seems like they have a little theme month to month. Here's one kind of nostalgic movie we're going to replay. But I think that's just one of those things, especially the older generation that has the money to go to the theater. That would be one reason why they would want to go relive, a really important memory in their childhood. Think about Ghostbusters, and I mean just every classic movie that you guys love. Imagine going back to the theater and reliving that inside of the big screen. That would be kind of cool. So that's the really only hope I see for a lot of movie theaters moving forward. But we'll see what happens with all this kind of stuff. As Mike said, it's been a crumbling industry. The numbers have been dwindling for years and years and years now, because you've had all these streaming services. And one thing I really want to talk about now, maybe if you guys have any further thoughts on it, more of like a broader philosophical perspective of what's happening in our economy right now. If you guys have been noticing, everybody has, that technology's been chipping away at the way we do things just on a daily basis and in our lives, right? It's been happening for a long time, but really you felt this kind of speeding up probably in the last 10 years. I think since 2010, since smartphones kind of came online and you see the app world blow up and all the new things that are happening, decentralized networks, decentralized, ride sharing and Airbnb and just all these things, every industry is kind of getting disrupted, and there's new, more efficient models being proposed. Some of them work out great. Some of them go bankrupt and don't work out. But this has been sort of like the steady theme of our entire planet for the last at least 10 years. It's been happening much longer before that, but you've really felt like we're on this curve kind of ramping up right now. And this feels like right now, if you guys have ever seen an exponential curve, it starts slow. You don't really see much of it happening. And then you see this kind of elbow start to pop up. And I feel like right now we're in the middle of a very steep elbow. And it's very uncomfortable to be in that position, because it's like, whoa, there's a lot of change coming at you very, very quickly. And how do you deal with all of it? And it's scary. And it feels like the earth beneath you is sort of shaking. There's like an earthquake happening. So I understand the nervousness and the fear. And that's been bubbling up. A lot of people have always been saying, definitely for the last 10 years, technology is making things worse. I don't like all this new crap. It's better off if we didn't have all this. Well, right now, I am much more convinced and thankful that we have the internet and decentralized networks and the ability to Google chat and talk with you guys and upload to YouTube and share this cool content and share this podcast with you guys. Because imagine if we had gone through this kind of a situation in the year 2000, right? The internet was there, but there's no social media, very few blogs out there, no ability to do this kind of FaceTiming video interactions to kind of feel like, Trevor and Mike and I are in this virtual meeting together. At least we have that. No, it's not perfect, but it's something, and it's something really cool. It's a solution, and it can actually get us through this situation. It's almost like the old model is showing its sort of signs of rust and kind of just outdatedness. And you've got this getaway boat that's been sitting here the entire time. And now you just have this very quick exit off of the old model into this new getaway boat that's there. It's at least there. In the year 2000, it might have been a tiny little raft, right? And that would have been a much trickier transition to get all this stuff moving into this barely usable internet thing, right? That would have been a bigger, much bigger problem. So I'm very thankful that at least if we have to go through something like this, it's happening right now because we've got some really cool things that can get us through this. So my point with all of that is basically that rather than this being a collapse, it's not a collapse, it's an evolution. This is a huge change happening right now. And a lot of the old models that are suffering right now, they just won't come back. Maybe some of them will come back in a small, little bit of a former, like a shadow of its former self. But a lot of the old models of doing things are just not going to be viable anymore. And I think this virus and everything that it's caused to the economy and the way people are perceiving the economy and how they're going to start behaving and acting on a daily basis, it's going to force people to think about doing things in a massively, radically new way. And it's going to happen very quickly within a couple of weeks, couple of months, definitely by the end of the year. Your world will look way different than it looks right now in the middle or late March, basically, of 2020, okay? Your world will look way, way different. And that's because we are now entering this stage of, if you guys are not familiar with the technological singularity, we can maybe talk about that, but that's the idea that we are basically on this constantly doubling of information technology. So that technology that we built last year doubles upon doubles upon doubles. And so we're basically getting smarter and smarter and faster and more efficient every single year. And at some point, those doublings, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, it starts to really jump. And so I feel like that's what's happening right now. This is a big spark in that sort of exponential curve there. So hang on for the ride. It's going to be a little bit tricky. It's going to be a little bit bumpy. There's going to be a lot of failures. A lot of, people are going to try things that are just going to fail massively. But there's going to be a lot of $1 million, $1 billion, maybe even $1 trillion ideas that get birthed in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months. I am deadly serious about that, guys. And I think it's in these times of change and crisis that you either become a hero and one of those millionaires or billionaires, or you sit on the sidelines and you're just afraid and you're worried, or you just let your entire business and way of life just crumble in front of you and you're just hopeless to do anything about it. And I don't want you guys to be in that hopeless situation. I'm more invigorated now probably than ever than I've been in my entire life. It's this weird, second energy that I feel right now because of all of this. So I'm very thankful. I know that people are suffering. I'm not trying to minimize any of that kind of stuff, but I'm going to do everything that I can with, videos like this, podcasts like this, to encourage you guys to point out solutions when I see solutions, to be real with you about what I see happening out there. So I hope you guys are taking this as encouragement to start working and stay productive. And so far, I'd say 95% of everything I've heard from you guys, either email, YouTube comments, or in the Sync Academy or Syndicate, most of you guys are doing exactly that. You're just saying, I'm not panicked. I'm working. I'm just getting my stuff done. And this is giving me a lot of extra time to really focus on the things I want to. So I love hearing that, guys. So please keep sharing those stories with me, with Trevor, Mike, and also with everybody in your social media circles, just to spread that positivity, that motivation. Sometimes people need to hear that stuff from the people that they know and care about. So anyways, if you guys have some maybe general overall philosophies about what's happening right now in the economy, in the world, I'd love to hear it. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for me, I think this is because there's more of this downtime kind of thing, and people are staying in and everything like that. I think what's going to happen is this allows some room for more specialists, and more specialist sort of skills to kind of come out into the forefront again, because new ideas are going to come out, new technology and everything. Even just with the medical side of this, we need new solutions for this anyway, so people are already in that mode. We have time to really sit down and be with ourselves for a bit and kind of make ourselves better, so I think, and you'll see, I think the people who are able to take advantage of that, even in the smallest way for themselves, you'll just see maybe a lot more confidence into what it is that you do, what it is that you can offer, and not necessarily just just putting out whatever is already there, adding something of value, because, I personally think people will see themselves as having more value in this, more individualistic and more specialized. So I'm kind of excited in the sense of what I do and what we do. And this offers a lot more opportunity for, like I said, so for more specialized sort of things. And even if you think about new shows being produced and stuff like that, yeah, you can't really, there's not going to be as many sort of things being filmed, as productions are shutting down. But, again, it opens a door for new technologies and new ideas. Maybe there's going to be a lot more VR, AR content. You're going to see more animation, you're going to see like, and I just think overall things are just going to get better, like instead of more, and I think that's kind of like what I'm excited about is, people can kind of like, let everybody take a breath, like we've been kind of in this whirlwind for like, whatever the past like 12, maybe 15, 20 years of, especially here in America of just like, the hustle and everything like that. So like this might give everyone a chance to take a breath, be like, okay, wait, what is it that I'm really doing? What is it that I really want to do? Focus on that and focus on like, what each of us can really contribute in the best way possible.
Absolutely. I love that, man. Yeah, just having some self-reflection time. Very, very important too, for sure. Even though, I should actually stress that I don't want to make sure you guys are aware that I still do take time to just meditate, close my eyes, sit in a room quietly, think about my thoughts, try to release stressful thoughts. I do exercise every day and try to take care of myself. So yes, even though I am very, very busy right now and hustling and I love what I'm doing, I think Mike's advice there does need to be doubled down on and emphasized. Take care of your mental health, meditate and meditation. I'm not like any meditation guru or anything like that, but I'll tell you guys, meditation is not emptying your mind out of anything. That's basically impossible. I don't think that's actually even possible. Maybe some people can do that. I don't know. I doubt that. What I do when I want to just kind of, if I'm feeling very stressed and just, especially you'll notice when you can't get to sleep, that's usually your first sign that you have a lot of stress. You're not getting good sleep. You're not able to get to sleep. Really quick tip, Trevor, and then I want to get your thoughts. Sit in a room where you don't usually work or sleep or really do anything, like eat dinner or do anything. Try to find, it doesn't have to be a chair, but somewhere where you could probably lay down or sit down at least. It could be on the floor, put a pillow against the wall and sit up against the wall. But just go find a place where you don't have any prior associations, like definitely not in your bed, not at your work desk where you make music, not at the dinner table where you meet with your family, nothing like that. And maybe not even on the couch where you're watching TV, but try to find a place where it's brand new. At least you don't have any like prior activity associations with it. Sit down, try to, be in a quiet place by yourself. If you need to put on some headphones, and like if it's kind of a noisy house because you can't get away from everybody in your house, that's fine. Put on headphones, get some like nice soothing, spa music, or you could have some nature sounds, maybe even noise canceling headphones, anything that can kind of really just get you into your own head essentially and kind of zero out the world. And you close your eyes, and basically how I visualize it is at the surface of your mind, at the top surface, that like just like the ocean, there's a lot of waves. This actually comes from transcendental meditations. This isn't my analogy, so I give credit to I forgot the guy's name who came up with TM, but really very valuable stuff. The top layer of your mind is usually where all those little chatter thoughts are, like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this. What if the economy does this? Oh, what is it with this client's not going to pay me? What is this? That's the little chatter that's way up here, and that's the surface of the ocean. Those are the waves that you see on the ocean. Go down in a submarine and you'll see that there's not much going on down there. It's very calm, actually, at just a few feet underneath the ocean. And things kind of it's just quiet. It's calm. There's no, not very minimal, just kind of motion going back and forth. Your mind is there too, right? At the surface of your mind, your conscious mind, that worrying part of your mind, that's where all that chatter happens. But if you just dive in a little underneath all that, you'll actually find there's a big open ocean of just calmness inside of you. And you can access that when you need to. So what I visualize as you're sitting there quietly, just have your eyes closed, sitting at somewhere comfortably. Try to just think on something that you love, something that's enjoyable to you, something that gives you pleasure, making music, a loved one, going for a walk with your dog, sitting outside with sunshine, or like maybe a vacation that you remember that was really cool. Anything that just brings you a little bit of joy, just think about that, right? Don't try to empty your mind of everything. Like that's really, I think, impossible. But just think about something that's not going to give you stress at least, right? You're not thinking about, I have that deadline, I got to get, nope. What I visualize is that every time I close my eyes, and those thoughts will come. So when they come, just know you're doing it right, okay? So you'll sit there quietly thinking about something that's nice and stress-free, and then a little thing will come in. But you got something to do by Friday. And what I try to do is I visualize that's basically balloons that are trying to pull me back up to the surface of that noisy wake of the ocean, right, where all the waves are. So those are little thoughts that are trying to pull me back up out of the deep. And so what I do is I visually do this. I don't actually do it with my hands, but just visually, I picture myself cutting the strings of those balloons coming down, trying to pick me up. And I just watch the balloons float back up to the surface of the ocean. Maybe they could be, I don't know, whatever, something else that would go into the ocean. Maybe balloons aren't the right one, but I just visualize balloons. So as these little nagging, pesky thoughts keep coming in, I just one by one snip them. Snip, snip, snip. Just watch those balloons float back up. It's a visual experience, but you will feel yourself settling and actually kind of sinking down, and you'll actually feel yourself going into that deep ocean of your mind, of that calm place. Okay, so maybe I can make its own video talking maybe how I do some of that, but that's basically transcendental meditation. I mean, I know some people have what do they do? The mantras, they chant something over and over again. I don't even do that. I just sit there quietly with my eyes closed and I just visualize that. And you'll find in like 5 or 10 minutes, your state of mind completely changes. Your body feels, you'll feel like you have like kind of a high. You'll feel completely sedated in a way, just completely relaxed, completely at ease. You will feel a stress reduction. I guarantee you that it will work for everybody. So anyways, long rant right there. So Trevor, I want to get your thoughts on the economy and the evolution of what's happening.
Yeah, quick on the meditation thing. I've tried so many times, and I've done it wrong or whatever. Because I'm not saying I can't, because I probably can. I've just done it wrong so many times. And you've narrowed, like, I have nowhere to do it now because you told me nowhere. You've narrowed down all the places in my house. The only place left is my bathroom, and I don't know. There's not pleasant memories there either. So I got to figure out where to meditate and try to.
Well, I will say. Let me say one thing then. So if you're in that situation, and like every seat, every place of the house is something you've done before. Like I'm saying, grab a pillow, put it on the ground somewhere where you don't usually sit. It's as simple as that. And the reason why we do that is because you don't want to have a prior association with that place. So if it's your bed, if it's work, you're always going to be associating that place with, oh yeah, the prior gig I had to do, or if it's in bed, it's like going to sleep, it's other things, right? So when you go to that new place, there's no association with that place. You are isolated in that one little space. And what's going to happen every time you go sit on that pillow in that little corner in your house, you're now associating that with relaxation. That's what we're doing here. We're just creating a new association. So, but anyways, it doesn't need to be its own room. You really can be just like a corner that you just don't really spend any time in.
Yeah. Gotcha. So on the like things that people do outside of music and stuff to kind of clear their minds and stuff. Like I don't know if either of you guys have kids, or like one of mine is just spending time with family and stuff, with people that I really want to spend time with and that I really like, which are my kids and my wife and stuff, and doing just stuff with them. Like I think a lot of people forget. I mean, even myself at times in the past, where you're so on the hustle and bustle, you kind of like, tomorrow, I'll do that thing with, but we're kind of at that time now where it's like, no, you kind of don't have an excuse. Like you can and you should spend the time, if you have people around you that you want to spend time with that aren't, down the street, possibly sick or whatever, like like family or close friends or whatever, do some of that, because for the soul or the mind or whatever, whatever it is that, that kind of centers you. I highly recommend that kind of stuff. I'm playing some child version of Dungeons and Dragons with my little kids, and they're ponies and princesses battling each other. It's pretty fun. But, doing stuff like that is definitely good, like step away, that maybe not a good idea to like focus on like a Netflix show for 6 hours, but actually something with people, and stuff like that, especially since we have to be secluded anyway. So, the industry. So, I'm one of those people that love change and love improvement and love cutting the fat. And I think that, after back to the history lesson thing of 2008, what came out of 2008 in the business world was, in a way, the birth of the entrepreneur, right? We've got courses and drop shippers and, online businesses selling you, teaching you or selling you, or you have all these people who, before 2008-ish, wasn't very popular. I know technology has to do a big part of it too, but also motivation. People were like, I have this skill. Let me offer it to everybody on the internet, throw some ads, be a little bit of self-promoting. Like, let me work at this a little bit. And people were doing it aside on their jobs, whatever. Well, I think that was the practice run. I think that we are going to see that balloon, maybe not in a balloon way of like, oh, I just need to buy more this product and sell it like crazy, but balloon in the efficiency part of it, where these musicians, instead of thinking, to bring it back to the music world, instead of thinking like I need to get signed to a band that solves all, or to a label that solves all my problems, more along the lines of, let me understand the industry, and then how can I squeeze myself in the industry as a musical entrepreneur, and not necessarily just an artist of like, I have great stuff, everybody give me money and everybody buy my albums, and more along the lines of, okay, I was quarantined for 2 months in the summer of 2020 during the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. And I learned Photoshop and video editing while I was quarantined. Now I make my own covers and music videos that are cartoons, like, and stuff like that. Like, I think that we're at that point now where people can do that and will do that, and then you know what those things are, and you find other people that have their things. Like, I remember I learned how South Park was made, and essentially South Park can't, like, anybody today can make South Park with like 3 friends and laptops. You don't even have to meet each other. Like, and you know, they go to an office or whatever, and because they want to or whatever, but they don't have to, right? The 2 guys do most of the voices, you know, and they could just grab their, just like Mike, you know, like Mike's microphone is really good. He has a nice voice, like he could totally do voiceover and characters or whatever. And if you've got an animator who's in, you know, 1 or 2 animators working on the animation, you got a writer, and then you voiceovers, like, you can create this new product out of nothing, and none of you have to meet. And that's just one example, right? I mean, there's tons of industries that don't do that kind of thing right now that could. And I think we're going to see so much of that, to the point where it's like those people that do those things also have like other things. Like, if you're a musician, you could realize you have a voice for maybe animation, and you do a character, and then you also do the songs in that animation, and then you also work for hire, and you also, you know, Photoshop, so you make a good photo to like promote yourself. And you're like really booming on, I feel anyway, that this is going to lead towards people like what you said, where you learn a couple extra skills that in a way you outsourced in the past. Like artists, you know, especially like distribution, you know, artists were like, okay, well, I'm selling my existence to a label because I don't want to be the graphics person. I don't want to set up the concerts. I don't want, like, I'm selling my music and product like as a leverage for those things. Now those, like, you don't need to do that because it's not that heavy, that crazy, and there's enough resources out there where somebody who's an expert can teach you for cheap, and you guys exchange that, and now you're better off. And I think we're gonna have so many, and that's just music. I see it in tech, I see it in anything creative, financial, like all of it, where people are like an accounting guy could learn to code a little bit and create a software that makes his job way easier, freelance, and get 20 clients instead of the 5 he had at a company. You know what I mean? Like, and so like there's so many possibilities there, and like that I feel that we're like, and just the people that I've talked to and been around and stuff have similar mentalities of like, well, I got to survive this. A bomb didn't go off that just killed all the people. Like, everybody still exists. Advertisers still exist. Clients still exist. Viewerships still exist. You know, products still, all this stuff still exists. We just have to shape the way we approach them differently, because we're going to have to, you know, like all projections and everybody kind of thinks that this isn't going to go away in a month. And so we're looking more like a year, where we're basically dealing with this for a year. And when we come out of it, I think we're going to learn that the old way, that we could have trimmed fat from the old way, and we have now. And what we have is this, you know, this fatless thing that we can, you know, build on now.
Well said, man. Yeah, a lot of great points in there. You guys have obviously thought about this very deeply, so I appreciate you guys. Without being too self-promotional here, this is probably the smartest video on the internet right now from 3 music producers about what's happening on planet Earth. I can say that probably very confidently. Agree. I would say so. So, and I'm actually not. I don't think I'm exaggerating at all. I actually do think that this is probably the smartest stuff that's being said out there. It's the most positive, it's the most optimistic, and I actually think it's just also the most realistic. We are not here to try to fluff you guys up on false hope, or it's all going to be okay, even if we don't feel that way. I do see this, as Trevor and Mike were both saying, as an evolutionary process that was necessary. And if it wasn't going to happen because of this, it was going to happen, guys. It was going to happen at some point. And you guys, we all kind of know that in our gut, that the world was changing very quickly, very rapidly. It was anxiety, and it was kind of stressful, but it was going to happen. And this was basically one of those things where it's like, all right, now we're birthing on to something else, because now you're going to have much more collaboration, much more technologies that usually didn't collaborate or connect or build off of each other. Now we're going to be talking to each other, and I don't even know what those are going to be, but you're going to see a lot of interesting new ideas where different parts of the world, different technologies, different industries, including ours, are going to be interacting and collaborating with all different people on planet Earth. And you're going to see this massive spike up in new technologies, new ways of doing things, and new sources of income. That's what this is really all about. There's going to be brand new sources of income and new gigs and new ways to get your tracks out there. And obviously the big theme of this video, this podcast, is that there's just going to be a lot of content going out to people right now. And it's going to come from major studios. It's going to come from the streaming services. But guess what? It's also going to come from, like Trevor said, just Joe Schmo in the middle of the country. Some guys in India that created something, some guys, in Africa. There's going to be some guys in South America that create the next big online TV show, viral video, whatever it might be. And it might not all just come through YouTube. There might be new websites, new platforms, VR platforms coming up. So I think you're going to see basically Hollywood also taking a massive hit from all of this stuff because they have now completely lost their stranglehold on distribution channels. So yes, they're going to still have a big chunk of it and they're still going to be putting out their content, but you better believe that some very talented, the next Steven Spielberg, so to speak, right, is bubbling up right now on YouTube and all these other platforms and creating content and in the VR world. And you're going to see a completely new industry and multiple industries being birthed out of all this. That's what happens during these crazy times is it's not that everything shuts down. It's in fact, a few things get disrupted and shut down, but what happens in its place are multiple new industries. Like if we went back to the Industrial Revolution and, what was it, 90% of our economy was farmers. Most people were just growing food. And if you told all of them, yes, because now we're down to what, like 5% or a very small number of people that actually farm. If you told all of them, don't worry about it because most of you guys are going to be working on this thing called, social media or the internet or, managing people's SEO for their websites. Talk to somebody during the Industrial Revolution, they're just like, what the hell are you talking about? No, that sounds terrible. None of these problems are going to get solved. It's either farming or nothing, right? And I hear the same crap going on right now. It's like, well, if this goes down, well, that's it. Like, we won't be able to figure this out. And then everybody will be out of work and there'll be nothing left. I don't believe that's going to be happening. If you want to see where we're going in the future, see where we came from. And where we came from was outdated, ineffective models and industries. They got to go. They got to die like dinosaurs. That's what happens. But new methods and new forms of creating income are going to be born. Entirely new industries that you can't even think of, that we just don't even have words for right now, or concepts for even, are going to be coming out of this very, very quickly. So it's going to be a bumpy, turbulent ride. That's for sure, though. And I understand how stressful that can be. So I do sympathize with you guys. I feel that myself. So I'm not just immune to feeling kind of a little bit of this. Where is this going to go? But what I do, rather than just get sucked in by all that fear and uncertainty, is I'm like, okay, well, then I know if you're shaking stuff up, there's going to be a path right in front of me somewhere where I can fit into and find an opportunity here, find some sort of a benefit for myself, for my friends, for my family, for my business, right? So I just have eyes wide open right now. So I encourage you guys that even if it feels a little bit strange and uncomfortable, keep your eyes open. Look for those opportunities because you might realize that the next $1 million, $1 billion idea is tomorrow. It might hit you tomorrow. You might be just thinking about something, talking to somebody and realize, whoa, that's a huge thing I could do something with. I could actually jump into that. If you're not looking for that, if your mind's not in that place, if you're in stress and fear and anxiety and worry, you just literally, you cannot see those things. They just will not present themselves to you. So try to elevate your mindset, your spirit, anything you want to call it. Eat well, exercise a bit, obviously probably staying away from gyms at this point, but getting outside, getting some fresh air, going for a walk, doing some push-ups, right? Minimal exercise just to kind of keep your blood flowing, get your muscles going, kind of a thing. Eat well, as I said, and sleep well. Make sleep a priority, okay? Try to get 6 to 8 hours, at least 8 hours. I try to. Really prioritize that. Don't take that for granted. And if you are having trouble sleeping, do whatever you can to try to just make that better. Okay, meditation could obviously work. Melatonin, sleep aids are obviously something you can look into. White noise machines are great. They block out all the sound around you. But sleep is probably one of the biggest things you can do for not only your immune system, but also for just your general mental health. You got to have high energy to be able to get through this stuff, guys. And of course, to thrive through all this seemingly chaos that's going on around all of us. So thank you, Mike and Trevor. I really appreciate you guys' time today. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we close this one out? And by the way, guys, we're going to do these fairly consistently. Mike and Trevor both want to do these probably on a weekly basis, maybe even more often than that. So we're going to come out with tons and tons of content for you guys. As we know, many of you guys are going to be locked up at home and not going out so much. We want to make sure you guys have lots of great positive content coming your way. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and leave us with your final thoughts?
Yeah. I think in certain ways, I think this is a good time. I think like really it's, the panic itself, I think is kind of exposing how many things don't work and how many things need to be changed, and it's kind of opening, like I was saying before, opening the doors to new ideas and new voices, new people to kind of come up and solve these kinds of solutions. The way we've been doing things, in our little section of the world, it, like that's going to change, and everything else is going to change with it, so this is an opportunity really for everyone, to kind of sit back, take some time to think about like, okay, well, what's really working, on an individualistic level, like what's working in my life, what isn't, how do I get better? And then from there, it can be taken globally or whatever to affect a lot of different people.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Trevor, how about you?
Oh yeah, I said a lot. I think I'm good.
Okay, I love it, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. What we're going to do, like I said, on my YouTube channel, I'm going to try to come up with a new video every single day. I've usually been doing 2 videos a week, and then I do the podcast. But I feel a responsibility to put out a lot of content right now, because I know a lot of you guys have a lot more idle time. So I want to provide you with something better than I don't know, just all the crazy stuff that's going on social media, it's conspiracy theories and false rumors and anonymous crap. I want to give you guys something that you can really use that'll actually help you in this time of opportunity. It is a time of opportunity, okay? It might feel not like that all the time, but I do hope you guys are getting that from us 3. You feel that genuinely. So we hope you guys continue on, stay positive, stay productive, and stay encouraged through this time. We'll all get through this together.